Hello, good morning, and welcome to another date on this morning. It's a Thursday, and today we look at Decree 34 of 1966 as instigator of arrested development. The late General Aguiyi-Ironsi, the first military head of state, promulgated the offensive decree number 34 of 1966 on May 24 of the same year. The so-called Unification Decree suspended in 1963 Republican Convention, or Constitution rather, and abolished the regions. General Yakubu Gowon repealed the offensive decree on August 31st, 1966, through Decree 9 of the same year. He, Gowon, compounded matters irredeemably, or so it appears to us, when he announced Decree 14 of 1966, which eventually buried the regions. That decree has not been annulled till date. Our arrested development was therefore decreed into being. We are having a conversation this morning. Let me introduce my guests. Fred Nzako is, by definition, a lawyer and a development economist. He also has time to commentate on politics. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, and good morning to our dear
and Lester Wilcox is a chartered accountant. He's also a public affairs analyst. Welcome.
Thank you so very much for having me this morning, and thank you to the esteemed viewers.
Yeah, Fred, with Decree 34, 8, Decrees 34, 8, and 14, regionalism and our organic republic were buried, as I just said.
Yes.
Amazingly, though, after 10 national conferences and billions of naira in tow, including the Goodluck Jonathan own,
Yes.
we are still asking for a restructuring of something that may not be there.
I think we now have a benefit of hindsight. We now have a benefit of looking down historically Nigerian developmental efforts after the unfortunate incursion into politics by the military. But we can only harvest the benefit of that hindsight and then move forward with that. Because a little background to what has led to even the 1963 Constitution. You recall that post-1914 amalgamation, there was a 1945 Constitution, Richardson Constitution, which actually brought into being the regions as they were, the three of them, and then it kind of set the standard for fast development of the country called Nigeria. And then in 1951, there was still another constitution, right, which kind of strengthened what Richardson did, and that was Littleton. That was Littleton, yes. Okay. Macpherson came in 1954. Yeah, and then all those constitutions kind of strengthened regionalism, strengthened true federalism, because they had a definite template. But with the whirlwind that blew across Africa, in fact, essentially in West Africa, following the coup d'etat in 1963 in Togo, the first military coup d'etat that swept off democratic elected government, you know, and then that took away Sylvanus Olympio, and I think it was General Yedema and his group that then caused that. Thereafter, there was it became more or less fashionable for soldiers to think political. And then
you think they were not instigated?
To some extent, some of them may have been instigated. To some extent, some of them may have followed the whirlwind. And then it became a kind of, in quote, popular for coup d'etat to be plotted essentially in West Africa. And then was sweeping away governments that were elected after independence. Recall that the 50s and 60s were the glorious years of independence in West Africa and especially in Africa. And the military did not have that patience to allow the civilians to really move the nations forward. Now, we can now say all this.
To fall and fall.
To fall and rise and then get it right. To fall and rise and get it right. The patience was not there. We can now say all this because of the benefit of hindsight. Because as at then, because people, the citizenry themselves, did not have the confidence to allow the politicians to drive, having enjoyed good governance from the colonial masters. But at the end of the day, we can now say that it was an error of judgment by the military.
Yeah, dovetaling from Fred, I think as at then, yes, it was fashionable. And I will still not totally write off the military incursion, because most of the things we enjoy today, still today, most of the relics that we still have as Nigerian development, dovetail from those era.
There are some who would say that's debatable.
I was not born during the First Republic. I was born during...
Good for you.
I was born during the heydays of military. So all I knew as a growing-up child was military governance.
Okay.
So all I knew as a grown-up child. And I also knew when my streets of Port Harcourt were rough, where we used to play football on the streets, until when they started tarring them and becoming, like under the Lecourt administration, it becomes some kind of... But you see, military, civilian, whatever, I don't think that is the main crux of the matter. The main crux of the matter is to what extent was anybody that was in power used the apparatus of power for the betterment, for the betterment of people. Yes, it can be debated that the military, they don't have a governance acumen. They rule by decree, by fiat. They do things with rush. A good example in terms of development, if you look at Pakistan and India, that had independence the same day, apart from the nuclear power that both of them possesses, in terms of development and in terms of this, India is far ahead, because India has remained a democratic governance.
Let's be, sorry, yes. Without meaning to unnecessarily interject, let's be a little fair here.
Yeah.
You were not born then, but I'm sure with history, you would have been told that Chief Obafemi Awolowo put his old western region on the world map.
No, sure, yes, because I mean, history was popular in those days in schools. I mean, the only time I saw Chief Obafemi was a far-off crusade, what they call it, campaign in Port Harcourt in 1983. Was the first time I saw the man face, apart from this thing. But I had the benefit of benefiting from some of his legacies when I came to the service in the West in the 90s. And certain roads that were constructed during the time of his administration were still there. Still Liberty Stadium is still a legacy for him. OAU Ife is still a legacy. And so many others. If you go to the Jebu part of Ogun State, you see that the whole roads were opened up, and these were the legacies of good governance.
Why I provoked you is because you claim that the military had more pluses than the civilians.
Yeah, because I grew up to meet those issues, and since successive military civilian administrations I met, like from '79, for instance, how many quality universities have been added since 1983 till now?
By quality. The military?
By the civilian. Okay, since quality universities.
Yeah.
How many quality teaching hospitals has been added to the bill since the military has handed over power to the civilian? Let's even say 20 years, 18 years of democracy, either both parties now. To what extent have that advanced, and with more resources available? So it's like you say, it is debatable. I know that under the military, there was developmental plans, universities are being built, teachers' hospitals are being built, we'll have a more better healthcare system, and those things collapsed.
Debatable.
Yeah, debatable. But those things, we are told, during the time of Devt Spiff in Rivers State and other governors, what they call him, Lecourt and others, Seidu and all that I managed to meet as a primary school boy, I never knew that they owe salaries until Mefokilo came to the scene in 1979-83 and started being owed salaries. You know, it took the intervention in 1984 for the military to clear up backlog of stuff. In fact, a state like Bender State was owing like, 18 or 21 months salaries at then. So those things were not hard during the then military. Like you say, it is all debatable. But even some of the lyrics that we are left, we'll talk about, we'll talk about, you are darling Southeastern State. About 13 to 15 industries, functional industries, were in place before the military left in 1979. Now with so much resources, citizens, how many quality industries are there in a state that used to be one and is split into two? How many quality industries are there that provide employment for the people?
Fred, the logic is now to look at organic federalism vis-a-vis our arrested development. He has not told me that he remembers that every power was devolved in the center in the military years. Now we're talking about federating units developing at its own pace.
I think what my brother and friend Lester has been trying to analyze is to look at to balance the pros and cons between the military and civilian administrations in Nigeria. But if you go that way, you may not catch a full grasp of the issue. Why I say so is because the structures are different. The military does not have the legislature, right? The military does not have freedom for the people. The military does not have so many things that
no debate.
That the people enjoy under civilian democracy. Let us keep that aside and look at democratic experience during the regional government when there was federalism practiced, and democratic experience of the now, where we practice a quasi-federalism, a military federalism, a unitary federalism, if you can call that, because of the experience of the incursion of the military in the system. If you look at the achievements of Dr. Emma Okpara in the eastern region, and look at the achievements of Chief Obafemi Awolowo in the western region, and look at the achievement of Chief Dennis Osadebe in Midwest, and then the achievement of Sokoto in the north, you cannot compare the achievements with what we have today, with what we have since 1979. Between 1979 and 1983, yes, there were even better development than we've had from 1999 till date, because it was closer in time to the experience of the regional government. And the further we drift away from that experience of true federalism as we practiced in the 60s and the late 50s, the further we drift away from development, true functional development. And that is why a lot of people, of which I belong to that school of thought, that we must think back. We must go back to where we got it wrong. We got it wrong from 1966. No matter how you look at it, physical building of bridges and the rest of them is not enough to say, oh, let the soldiers come back. And meanwhile, even the balkanization of the nation into different states and continuously balkanizing the nation under every military government from the 44 regions to 12, under Gowon to 19, under Murtala to 26, to 30, down 36, out of which half of them, or more than half of them, are mere advanced local government areas. So why don't we begin to think of bringing down the huge cost of governance?
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that is to go back to our 1963 Constitution. And the 1963 Constitution allowed for true federalism, allowed for development and not consumption. There must be a difference between productivity and consumption. The current constitution that we operate is built on consumption, whereas the 1963 Constitution was built on productivity. And that is why everybody at the end of the month, you go to Abuja to share money under Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, which was a creation of the military, and you wonder why it is still there. Federal Accounts Allocation Committee, a creation of the military, and you still wonder why it's still there. And that is why I agree with you, Jones, that a lot of the decrees of the military, naturally, they are supposed to be subservient to the Constitution, having become democratic. But you see that the decrees are popping up. They have shaped and unfortunately and reshaped the psyche and the operational modus of governance. And that is the challenge that we have.
I thought I should take Lester back historical lanes now. Unfortunately, 2 days ago, it became 42 years since General Murtala Ramad Mohammed was killed.
God bless his soul.
February 13. But then There are people who would tell you one of the vestiges of the Muritala administration was a dismantling of civility in the civil service. Almost everybody was sacked.
Yes.
And between then and now, the civil service
really?
we don't have this so-called super PEMSEX anymore.
Yes, I want to take that question and connect it with what my brother said, the psyche of the people. I think for me, it's more of a psychological than a constitutional thing. Because those decrees that we have highlighted here, none of them are in operation as we speak today. What's operation today?
Fred is saying not in operation directly.
Directly. It's the constitution that's in operation. But the psyche that we have has been the type that we still see ourselves as lords and master of the people.
Good. A quick question. In a true federalism,
yes,
must a federating state go cap in hand to the center?
No, it's not cap in hand. In every geographical arrangement, every country has its own arrangement in terms of resource management and allocation. Even the U.S. as a truly federated state, or we always take an example, still have an allocation committee that states go to collect funds. It is not absolute. In the UK, they have their own method of sharing. They have the federal and the local government. And then now cities are creating, what they call it, mayoralties. And they have the four main governments, the Westminster, the Scottish Parliament, the Scottish government, the Wales, and then the Northern Ireland, which is the four main government, although all still subservient to Westminster,
yeah.
In terms of laws, better. So every state, every country has its own peculiarities in terms of what best suits them. And this thing evolves over time. Now, with our own experience, I am still on the soul as well that it is not the constitution or the laws, but the operators. Because it takes the operators, like we were speaking backstage. Decree 34 came in, Decree 14 came in, and governors operated under, yes, it was a direct rule from Lagos, but governors operated under it, and there were results. Nobody tied the governors, even though it was a direct draw from, a direct command, a command structure
yeah.
from Lagos. Yes, from Lagos. They still go down to the people. The commissioners that serve in those states, they are from the people. The PAMSEX and others in the entire civil service are from the people. And the governors saw this, and the governors were able then to do some of those things that we think today, that we still credit them to, even though some of them will have. But if you look at what happens today, no matter how you think of that constitution, even if you say today, okay, River State, which is my darling state, there's true federalism, take hold of your resources, pay 50% to the center, which everybody is now arguing, okay? So you take both mineral resources, you take the taxes, the VAT, the tax and everything, and you're supposed to pay half to the center. For goodness sake, Jones, will that change the psyche of those who have come to the point that today that our own is to chop and quench and clean out? Will that change the psyche?
You are missing what Fred said earlier on, which is a subtle reference to this hangover, military hangover.
No, that's what I say.
But are you seeing it?
Yes, that's what I put on the psychological sphere. Because it takes somebody to say, no, this is what I'm supposed to do for my people. I have 10 billion naira monthly as my income. Therefore, I pay my worker salary, I develop roads, I create economic zones, infrastructure for people to survive in your state. Nobody comes to tell you what to do in your state from Abuja. Nobody. Nobody dictates to your state house of assembly. Nobody. Even as it is today now, nobody controls local government elections for you. Okay. The states conduct the local government election. The states have a state assembly that is elected by the people, and that they account to the people and should be a checkmate to the governor. But what do we have today? Does Abuja tell anybody that the state house assembly should be the puppet of the governor? Nobody. No question says that. Question is clear as to what you can do and what you cannot do.
Fred, mine is, I look at the 1999 Constitution as amended,
yes,
even if contentious, and you ask, why can a state, or why will a state like Ondo not exploit the bitumen deposits in its environment for advantage?
It cannot exploit it because the laws have not allowed Ondo State to exploit the bitumen. The same laws that have not allowed Imo State to exploit the oil that they have, nor Bayelsa, nor Akwa Ibom.
Or tin mining, illegal mining in Plateau.
The huge deposit of tin and columbite in the Plateau, or the solid minerals in Nasarawa and the rest of them. It has become a sore point in our national development that Nigeria as a nation, Nigerian political leaders are not looking at the big picture. The big picture is this. We had 4 regions. We had 3 regions initially and they were doing very well. We had 4 regions and they were doing very well. We later had splinters of states and they are having issues. Why don't we go back and trace our steps back? For every region, if you don't want to go back to a region, we have a robust platform on the table with which we can grow. And that platform is the 6 geopolitical zones.
That's an acceptable template?
It's a very lovely template. Because if you go back to history of Nigeria, you find out that nations, pockets of nations made up the country called Nigeria. And then in creating the 6 geopolitical zone, these nations were taken into consideration. Yes, there may be minute nations under the bigger nations, but at the end of the day, administratively, the 6 geopolitical zones have presented a very beautiful template for Nigeria to grow. In the sense...
You must rub in the fear of domination and so on.
The fear of domination has always been there.
Okay.
And you can never take it away. Why I say so? When you say this is Yoruba land, let's say, take for example, this is Yoruba land. When you come down to Yoruba land, the Ibadan man will say, I'm a Ibadan man. The Yewa man will say, I'm a Yewa man. The Jebu will say, I'm a Jebu man. Inside the same Yoruba. And it is all over, it's like that all over the world and all over the place. But what is important, part of what I have personally identified as an analyst, is the huge cost of governance is affecting development in Nigeria. And how do you curb it? It's pure and simple. Go use the template you have on ground, and which is the 6 geopolitical zones. Don't go back to the regions, because a lot of people will say we are not going back. But presently we have a beautiful template. Why would there be 36 governors instead of 6? Why would there be 36 state houses of assembly instead of 6? Why would there be 36 judicial systems instead of 6? Why would there be so much bloated bureaucracy to the extent that 75 to 80% of the budget of both state and the federal government go into servicing the recurrent expenses? What is recurrent expenses? Money that you spend on a daily basis, either weekly, daily, monthly. At the end of the day, 75, 80% is gone. You are leaving 20%. Out of that 20%, from there, you service debts, and then very little is left for capital development. And by the time any governor or any president or anybody in authority wants to now develop, he'll be forced to go and take loan. And in taking loan, you are creating and compounding the problems that already existed. Whereas, if we shrink the bloated democracy, we will release a lot of funds for development of the state and of the country. And more so, it will also help to cut off all these issues and challenges. I tell you, nobody will now be afraid of restructuring. Even if that is what we achieve, we are making progress.
And if we extend the logic, Lester, we can talk about security matters now. That your governor does not have to wait for the IG in Abuja to react to a security situation. Look at Benue State.
I think this issue...
In true federalism.
I think this issue, we have so sectionalized it and making the IG in Abuja the alpha and omega of everything. There's a commissioner of police in Rivers State. There's a commissioner of police in an IG representative in the state.
Be pointed now. There's a commissioner of police in Benue State.
Yeah, there is a commissioner of police in Benue. So it doesn't necessarily need the IG to be in Benue State, to be in Kogi, to be in Nasarawa at all times.
Why didn't he, in concert with the governor, who is the chief security officer,
yes,
take the decision without a recourse to Abuja?
He doesn't. See, Anyway, one area that's not my forte is security matters or how the architecture works. But I know from hindsight that today Lagos is better police, not because they are just in Lagos, but as a commissioner of police that work in sync with the governor of Lagos, and most of its needs, materials are met. And
you don't see any missing link
no,
here.
The missing link being the fact that the governor does not have the IG under his control. It is a missing link.
Or
but,
properly put,
okay,
our type of democracy is not an organic one.
No, it's not. I agree with you. I agree with you, and that's why
that's the.
I also
quarrel.
want to.
It's the quarrel. It's
want
the
to
thrust of the discussion.
I also want to highlight a bit of what what my friend said. We are talking about a people. All these states that were created was not because somebody just want to create states. It was a demand from the people.
No,
it was.
Unless no state outside of the original four was created by consensus.
No.
They were created by
the military. Or, by the demands of the people. Because, let's take it. The people of...
You want the debate?
Yes. The people of the old northern region talked about minorities and all whatnots in the middle belt and all whatnots. And so the space were created.
No less so in the south.
Yes, in the south. I know the rancor.
Remember the Willing Commission?
I know the rancors between in the old eastern region. Yeah. When the minorities, the Akwa Ibom, the rivers, and all whatnot felt cheated. Why did Midwestern region was created? If not the demand and the cause. So most of these are demanded by the people.
But we are saying
it was done by
creating
fiat.
Those states by the military. There was no consensus, one, and no.
There was
no plebiscite.
No. They were not there because they were really under military. Okay. And that is why it's discovered that no civilian government has been able to create states, even though today, if you go to National Assembly, there are over 50 to 60 demands for states.
There are about 80.
Good. So, that is because people are still demanding today. So even what my brother is talking about, if you bring it to the table today, I'll tell you, a lot of people will tell you, how do you want to match the man from Agenebode to the man in Akankpa and say they are the same people? They will revolt. Agenebode is one extreme end of South-South. Akankpa is in Cross River is another extreme end of South-South. So how do you want to do that? So there will always be that. There is no one stroke of the pen solution to this issue than which I have always associated. Yes, I agree to all this, that where we must that is fantastic. No constitution tells you that a governor should have 1,000 aides, personal assistants. Kogi State, they appointed, is it not 50, maybe 60 SAs in a state that has not paid, that are not able to pay salaries. Those are just jobs for the boys. I understand there was a state in the north, is it Bauchi or so? Bauchi. That had 1,100 aides. Was that the constitution that told them? It is the individuals that operate the constitutions. There was a time, I remember...
I think the governor has dropped a number.
Yes, I remember in 1984, 85, I can remember vividly, when the Buhari military government came in. Ekeleme was the governor of Rivers State, and every state was asked to have 10 commissioners. The federal government had 19 ministers to represent the 19 states of the federation, and every state was asked to have 10 commissioners, and that's what they work with. So it is the people and the operators that are the ones that are the problem. So even if today you say, okay, let us collapse the entire southeastern region into one region.
But it is so.
Will it stop? That is leave all the states into one of the fed. Will it stop whoever that is the governor or whoever that is the mayor to appoint 2,000 aides? Because you must satisfy every communities.
Maybe and maybe not. But I hear from upstairs, we must go on a break. Please stay, don't go away. Welcome back. Don't miss it. Decree 34 of 1966 as instigator of our arrested development. That's the talking point. I want to believe we have pumped you enough to want to react. The telephone lines are on your screen. take advantage and let's get talking. Fred, the debate is always there. Should we go back to the parliamentary system or the presidential, which is considered too costly, and which we are practicing here? Yet we are not following the tenets of the presidential system.
Pure and simple. We are not following the tenets of the presidential system. The presidential system is anchored on true federalism. That's all. And what we have done as a nation is to go and borrow the expensive aspect of presidential system, which is bicameral legislature, executive powers of the president, without picking the juice of that system, which is true federalism. As we speak, without power being devolved to the federating states, we will continue to have challenges and issues. And then how do you devolve power to the federating states when, as we speak, the 36 states, on their own, some people will argue that every state is viable enough to maintain itself. But how viable is that viability? Can it be sustained over time without the oil that is flowing from the Niger Delta region and without the VAT that is coming from the developed commercial cities?
Fred, I'll pause you. I have a call here, but chew this while I take the call. A particular voice from the north is saying, no, oil does not belong in the Niger Delta. It is Nigeria's oil. We'll come back to that. Maxwell, good morning. You are in Ghana, Tema. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good morning and good morning to the guests.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Thank you, Maxwell.
What I want to contribute this morning as the issue is raised there is just the issue of structure. Nigeria is like a tomb, fanciful outside, but down inside there is a stinking corpse in there. If the structures are not dealt with, we'll keep on complaining and talking about this issue in the next 30 years to come. I was in the military. I want to correct an assertion that is made by my brother here, Wilcox. The army doesn't need your consensus to create states. States were created, I was a member. States were created by an act, a military act that was given by the military hierarchy, either the Provisional Ruling Council or SMC. They don't need your input to create it. Even the constitution that we are using, it is by the army. Nobody came together to arrive at a consensus. So this is the template that Nigeria we are going to use to operate Nigeria.
Yeah.
Unless this vital structure is being changed, we will continue to suffer this for the next 30 years. The feeding bottle system of feeding the population can never work for Nigeria.
Yeah. Thank you, Maxwell. But if the baby cries for food, you feed
you must give it.
I said before his call, a voice, I've forgotten the gentleman's name. He said, no, you couldn't ascribe oil to a particular region. It belongs to the country. And this is to tie it up to what Maxwell has just said. The military operates on a unitary regimen.
Completely. If you cannot ascribe oil to Niger Delta, will you ascribe solid minerals to the Middle Belt? Will you ascribe the tin columbite in Jos to the Plateau region? It is because of the Minerals Act enacted by the military that vests, Minerals and Oil Act of 1969, that vests all the mineral resources under the soil upon the federal government. Yeah. That's all.
Can you tie it to the Land Use Act?
That's how I'm coming. That is where the conflict comes. The Minerals Act vests all the oil under the soil onto federal government, but the Land Use Act of 1978 vests all the land on the state government. And then for the ones in the urban areas, and then to local government, because local government was created in 1976, and then to local government for the ones in the rural areas. all these conflicts are impediments to development.
Okay.
And that is why the Ondo man cannot exploit the bitumen under his soil.
All right, let me quickly take Tony here in Lekki, Lagos. Welcome, Tony.
Yeah, President Jones.
I greet you.
Tony Nadi here.
Yeah, Nadia, I greet you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just two things quickly. Good thing I've spent plenty of time on these issues, longer than most people will ever have to spend. The first thing to correct is that Decree number 34 by Ironsi did not tamper with the regions. There was emergency. The politicians were the reasons for the emergency in the way they were fighting among themselves, and then a coup had happened by junior officers who didn't get to power. And it fell on him, since he was the most senior. It fell on him to stabilize the situation. And since the administrations had been decapitated, and he had to manage the situation, the decree number 94 was merely to bring some form of sanity in that emergency by creating a central command at which the regional heads, the governors who were to be appointed, will form a decision-making body. But the regions were not tampered. It was, like you pointed out before, it was the subsequent action of Gowon that tampered with the regions, and they went ahead to break them into 12 states in 1967. Therefore, when people move around to say that it was Ironsi that started plunged us into unitarism, it is like the other falsehoods of Nigeria. It is not so. It was the administration, was only the administration that was centralized for the purpose of managing the emergency. The regions still owned their assets completely, and the matter of what goes to the center was still the business of the region to contribute to the center until the Gowon decree that subsequently put those things.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out is the matter of the structure that we now have and what we could do. If we do, it's like a building that is cracked from foundation that is sure to fall because it's deteriorating by the hour, and we have seen the deterioration going on. If we refuse to agree that we should pull down the building for reconstruction, it will collapse at its own time and cause a lot more damage. We've waited and waited and waited for people to come to reasoning, and things are getting worse and worse. It's now coming to where a government are going to resort to set. Nobody will sit by and watch its own people being killed by a machinery that seems to have the blessing of the man in charge of all the guns in the land.
No. Tony, you are trying to corrupt the discussion.
The discussion,
now. Please don't. Don't corrupt it. You've made your point. We got it first time. All right then. But Tony Nadi cannot quarrel with our choice of phrase, Decree 34, 1966, as instigator of our arrested development.
I think I want to thank Tony for correcting that. I mean, because I had in mind.
No, I never said.
No, I had in mind to do that correction.
Yeah.
But you see, the sequence of events never allowed me, because even with that Decree 34, like you said, the regions were not nailed. What nailed the federal structure of the regions was the subsequent decree that came the same year, sometime in
Decree 14.
Yeah. Of 31st August 1966.
And Decree 8 that brought the states into being.
To being. And as a matter of fact, even the creation of the 12 states were not done with development in mind.
Yeah.
It was done to prosecute the war.
And there was an exigency.
There was an exigency.
No, but the fact is,
it was done essentially to prosecute the war and then give an advantage to federal troops. And that was why, even the ceding of Bakassi, which Nigeria is suffering as at today, came as a result of that error of judgment committed by the Gowon administration.
Yeah. Before I take Opara quickly, let me say that Tony made allusions to a defective structure. And you talk about environmental impact assessment. Yes. That's what we're doing now. The experts are saying, stop work. Okay, stop work. Sorry, Okbara, please come back if you can. Stop work on this structure, Lester, let's see how much of damage reduction and control we can do here.
Exactly. See, the only issue is that the sectionality and how we have sectionalized it. Now, today, the narrative is changing. No, it was not Agui-Ironsi. They are all gone. So all those narratives, for me, it's academics. You understand? And that is the new narrative now that is saying now. No, what I'm saying, no, I'm talking about who really did or who really did not do what.
No, we have gone beyond that.
Yeah, we've gone beyond that. So anybody who is bringing that back to say you want to correct, I think it's an academic exercise. The fact was that the military incursion, which was not supposed to have been. And we've had opportunities. For me, all this it doesn't make sense to me. But we've had an opportunity for us to have seen the mistake of 1979 to 83. That we are running a federation that is too large, and that at this point, maybe you want to take a caller.
George is here. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Citizen, and good morning to the panel.
Right.
Good morning.
Citizen Jones, I have been arguing against this structure for some time, and I will continue to argue against restructuring. I want to align myself with Alessa when he said that even if the restructuring is done today, what impact is it going to make on the attitude to governance? The answer is capital no. A Citizen, there were 3 regions during the time of Chief Awolowo, because his name has been mentioned during that discussion. The pace of development in the 3 regions, was it the same? It wasn't the same, because Awolowo was an individual and the other regional leaders were different individuals. It was the vision and the governance skill of Awolowo that made the difference. It is the same thing today. It was the same thing then, and it's the same thing today. It is the person, not the structure, that brings about good governance. Let us stop making it look as if it is the structure that is not making us to develop. It is the people who have not imbibed the right attitude to governance. We must get that one straight. When you say constitution, the people that brought a constitutional governance to us, they don't even have a written constitution. And we know that governance in Britain is among the best in the world. We should, in my view, we should stop talking about the constitution being our constraint.
Okay.
Judge,
in effect, let's talk about the structural engineers, Fred.
Yes, I was making a point, sir.
Yeah.
The structural engineers are very key here. The structural engineers are very key.
Not the structure itself.
The structure
Who designs
the structure must be right. But the structural engineers and those who are managing the structure are key. Because if you're managing the structure, a beautiful structure, let's take this studio now, and we have a manager here, that every day he comes, he removes this one, you go and sell the bulb, you go and do this. What will happen to the structure? No matter how beautiful it is. If it comes now, there are people that are supposed to sweep and they didn't sweep, or they didn't set the stage. So no matter how beautiful the structure is, it will collapse, it will be useless. For me, really, there must be some thinking of where we are today. Fred talked about moving from presidential to parliamentary.
I didn't advocate.
No.
I didn't advocate such movement.
Sorry, no.
Yes,
I mean, you said it in passive.
Yes.
If we are looking at that, okay, presidential is costing us quite a hell of a money. I mean, it's too expensive. It makes the governor, look, we think the president is powerful. The governor is far more powerful than the president in his domain.
It's a lie. The Constitution presently.
No, but in practice, which National Assembly can talk to the governor? But the Senate can challenge the president.
Okay, let me quickly take Okorafor, waiting patiently in Arochukwu. Welcome, Okorafor.
Good morning, Mr. Jones, and good morning, Mr. Wilcox, our organ on the left side. Honestly speaking, you see, the major issue or major issue Nigeria is facing today is multiplication of states in this country. The colonial masters played their game plan that did not favor all, and they left. Today, what are we facing? We are facing a lot of controversy. Today, Nigeria is used to say bye-bye to sectionalism, and this theory of this is our turn. Now, whether Nigeria likes it or not, we have to restructure by the grace of God. And oil is still Olobri. We know that there are some exploration we are still trying to do in others, but today we still believe that oil is from Olobri. In Port Harcourt, the Garden City. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day. Restructure is...
Okay, Okorafor, I wish you were there to answer this. Is there a structure in the first place?
There is a structure.
Okay. Can you describe
the structure? Is warped and faulty. The faulty structure is the pseudo-federalism that we operate. The pseudo-federalism that has given rise to 1999 Constitution that did not emanate from the people.
Where do we go from here? There must be
that's what I'm saying, that
yeah.
It is not easy. I mean, it is not for people to just sit down and say something has to be done. What is that something? When you say, no, I don't believe in restructuring, it is the people that we should be there, that something has to be done on the people. The question is, what is that something? You put a structure that will be formidable, and then the structure will now be built on by the people. When you don't put up that structure and you say something has to be done, what is that something? And that's why I told you that we have a template already in our hands. If Nigeria will tell themselves the honest truth, the template is simple. We have 6 geopolitical zones.
Okay.
Convert them to economic zones and convert them to administrative zones. And you see some of these things taking shape. One, you are not going back to history to go and regurgitate
regionalism,
parliamentary system or regionalism, because some of the challenges that we had with regionalism led to tribalism, politics of tribalism, a system where Dr. Azikiwe will not be a premier in the southwest. I had to go back to southeast. Those were the challenges and the setbacks of regionalism. But with what we have today in the 6 geopolitical zone, if you convert the 6 geopolitical zone to administrative and economic zones, you are going back to something that looked like regionalism, but with a true federal character.
Modified.
Modified.
All right. Let me take you to Shogbo gentleman. Tomiwa is waiting. Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
I greet you.
My name is Tomiwa from Shogbo.
All right, then.
All right, sir. I greet the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My contribution is that already you have the question the other time whether is there any structure on ground or not. See, the simple answer to that question is no. From my perspective, the reason why I said no is that imagine it's just like when you have a piece of land and you have in mind that you want to be a particular type of structure on it, but you just leave that piece of land. You are dreaming about it. You are not even started. As far as I'm concerned, we should go back to that parliamentary system of government of the First Republic that made all the managers, the people that are at the head of, they have to be accountable for their stewardship. Because as far as I'm concerned, if we continue with this type of presidential system of government we are practicing now, that is very costly, one of the most costliest, system of government in the world. We cannot go anywhere. That's my contribution. Thank you.
All right. So, I don't know, by training and by ethics, I'm not supposed to take sides.
Yeah.
Let me ask you again for the umpteenth time. Is there a structure that requires restructuring?
Yeah, we have a structure. There's a structure on ground. I mean, it depends on how you're looking at it. Is it the form of government? Is it the administrative units? Like I've always argued, we've had a structure. We are either parliamentary system of governance, we are either regionalism.
Okay, you had a structure.
We have. It's still there now. At least 36 states, 777 local government.
Okay.
It's still part of the structure of Nigeria.
So what is wrong with it?
What's wrong with it today, like I said, is one, we have a system that is too costly, which is we are bringing the present system of government that is too costly. We have a system whereby governors are lodged onto themselves. Today, like I was saying before I went on break, before you took that call, people think the president is powerful. Governors are more powerful because they pocket the state assembly. I remember what happened in Ekiti the other day. The governor went to the House of Assembly, presented the budget, and hit the gravel and passed his budget by himself. Absurdity that takes place. So these are some of the things that need correction. We have a concurrent and exclusive and concurrent list that is not balanced. that need to be tinkered so that the federal is reduced from some of the responsibility.
That's
and
one of the many defects.
Yes,
in
and
the
more
structure.
money goes to the states, and the states have more responsibility. In terms of talking about merger of states.
Hold on. Let me go to Abuja. Ben is waiting. Ben, good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Welcome.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are on.
Good morning.
I greet you.
Yes. I want to make a contribution to what the gentlemen are saying. I think our problem in this country has not been, issue of development has not been structure or no structure. I think it's love lost. You see, when somebody makes a comment that the oil in the Niger Delta does not belong to the Niger Delta, you begin to look at those, there's an addiction from my place that says if 3 or 4 people are portraying one spirit, and 1 or 2 turns around to tell you that you smell like a spirit, you need to be very careful. There's a lot of us in the country, and if there's law in the country will operate as a single unit. When you're doing railway from Kaduna to Kano, you should know that you should do railway also from Lagos to Onitsha. That's the commercial hub in the east. If you're building a mega city like Abuja, from the process of oil in the Niger Delta, you should also plan for a mega city from the swamps of the Niger Delta. If you have a deep water port in Lagos State, where majority of Nigerians are bringing containers, and you know where the majority of these containers are going to, you know the trading part of this country. You must also plan to have a deep sea port in the Niger, in the south, where you have rivers. You see, what they taught us economics in the primary and secondary school, they talk about localization of industries. One of those factors that affect localization of industries is closeness to the source of raw materials. My brother, there's deep sea in Delta State, in Bayelsa State, in River State, in Akwa Ibom. What is the fear of the federal government in having a deep sea port in that region? You decentralize commerce in the country. By the time you decentralize commerce in the country, development will come.
Yeah.
So you don't get job by just speaking grammar on TV because you're a minister, because you're a commissioner, you're a senior parent. Yeah. But job creation is from the brain. By the time you have a deep sea port in the Niger Delta, there will be expansion of commerce.
That's it.
People will have job to do. They'll be clearing and forwarding. Many guys will come there to carry containers. The roads near to those wharves will be built. Railways will expand.
Thank you, Big Ben. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I was
very well spoken.
Given what he has said,
yes,
is there a structure that needs restructuring?
There is a structure.
What can you describe the structure?
The structure is weak structure, and that structure I called it unitary federalism, pseudo federalism, a warped federalism. That is the structure we are operating, and that is why we are not growing.
So what to do with it? What to do with it?
What we do with it is to restructure it. And I mean, all this while I've been talking about that template, right? Because if anybody sits down to say...
You're closing your thoughts.
Yes, if anybody sits down to say that the oil in Niger Delta does not belong to Niger Delta, the person is not being honest to himself or herself. Because why is the solid minerals in the middle belt, in the north central, and then other parts of the north not being exploited to the benefit of larger Nigeria? What is the delay in it? And then why are other mineral resources that are bound in the country not being exploited? Why must everybody be waiting for the money coming from petroleum resources, where the environment is terribly messed up, and nobody is talking about it? That is the structure that we operate, and that structure is faulty.
The truth is, I want to align again with the last speaker that talked about the person from Abuja, loss of love in the country. We have so much balkanized our mentality and our minds with this North-South divide, Christian-Muslim divide. For me, that's a problem, major problem. Look, we started this democratic experience with Ghana. We are all saying that the 1999 constitution was not done by the people. The Ghana constitution of 1992, when they went back to civilian rule, was done by the ruling junta. But today, Ghana has a stable democracy. I mean, nobody talks about where you come from.
You talk about the spirit and the
letter. That for me, that is it. Nobody talks about where you come from. No, look, the struggle for power in Ghana is not there, like in Nigeria today. So even if you devolve, I want a devolution of power, yes. I want there to be a better system of government, maybe parliamentary or something, yes. But at the same time, I want the rebirthing of the people towards a better Nigeria, and that is really, and that is the panacea for whatever struggle we have to have a meaningful impact.
Alistair Wilcox, many thanks for your time.
It's my pleasure, Citizen.
And your
perspective,
it's my pleasure, Citizen. We can't thank you any less.
Many thanks.
So the debate is there. To you, is there a structure? If yes, what's the structure in your estimation? What to do about the structure? Again, I still am turning this over in my mind, like turning fufu. We still have the Land Use Act. Do we need it in 2018? Think about that. That's it for the morning. There's another program tomorrow morning. Take care of yourselves, but think Nigeria. Bye-bye now.